But President Anus was the leader of the villagers, and, well, there was a lot of lore. That's all I'll say. Hello everyone, this is Duke, and welcome back to the Diamond Society. Or should I say, what used to be the Diamond Society. This is the old Season 1 map, back from when I used to play on the server, which is now 8.5 years, just about, since we started. Which is really crazy to think about, really crazy to say, because it really did feel like a pivotal moment on the channel, where I went from hosting my own server and just not really doing a whole lot to meeting all these new people and just really exploring what could be possible within the realm of Minecraft, but also with the friends I've made along the way. So a couple days ago I reached out to an old friend named Motbot, who was a member of the server with me back then, and I asked him, I was like, hey Mott, is there any chance you still have the old Diamond Society world lying around from Season 1? And he led me to the Discord where I was discussing with BC, another member, and he was able to get me a link for the Season 1 world, which had, I thought, been lost to time. So, when the server first started, I was able to find this spot out here in this absolutely insane mountain range. If we turn up a render distance just a bit for a second, I just want to take a look at this kind of in better view. If this all loads in and my computer doesn't absolutely catch on fire. But I decided that I wanted to go for a bit of a kingdom, and you'll quickly see here that I was a little bit overly ambitious. The backdrop for this was just so incredible that I couldn't not try this out, you know? I mean, just look at this overhang, and what we were able to accomplish in the time that we did, I think was still pretty remarkable, even if it never got fully fleshed out. And, you know, it wraps all the way around back here. This is Pleasant Muse's base. I remember him. I don't know if he's still even around anymore. We've got a dragon skull or something, which I believe was a mob spawner, or like one of those mob funnels. So all the loot would just end up down here. Okay, yeah, there's a mixture of things. Don't know how the sunflower ended up here, but there's sunflower literally everywhere. So there's that. I'm going to turn this back down again so my computer doesn't fall apart. So as we zoom quickly through here, I'd like to just start out right out in front just to see it for kind of the way that you would as you're coming on into the world or into my particular base. So we have this nice winding little path here, and then all of a sudden, boom. Started with these two towers on either side of a bridge, and this was really like the main entrance. This is what you see. You see these big formidable towers. Actually, Coop Dizzle, who was the owner of the server, he was the one who contacted me initially, always referred to them as these French style towers. For a young kid that I was at the time, I don't think I fully grasped what that meant, but I was just having fun building a castle. And what I ended up doing is building 4 here, and you'll quickly see that a lot of this is unfinished, which is my fault, but either way, so you walk up in here and you have these 4 towers that kind of loom over you. Looking back 8 years on, I'm not sure if these 2 towers ever needed to be built. I think something can be said about simply having the 2 in the front and leaving the rest open for the potential sight lines of the cathedral in the back. But either way, we have this unfinished little passageway that leads through. Discussing sightlines, there you go. So there was what was a little bit of a town center kind of idea with a big fountain in the middle, and you'll quickly start to see these little houses that I had propped up and that are very unfinished. Whoops. I, again, was a little bit ambitious with things, and I think I very much overestimated what I was capable of doing at that time. You start to notice a little central theme here. So again, it was going for a kingdom theme. We have a bunch of little townhouses all surrounding with a little market space. And you'll see I started to name all of these individually. So we have Shior, I believe that's how I pronounced it. Then we have Malik and Gilda's venison stand over here. So I was really thinking about trying to implement some sort of Skyrim aspect, which was really just something that I fell in love with at the time, and I was still a really big fan of it today. I still play it occasionally, but I just really love the aspect of including some lore into such a thing like this. And the idea was that this was going to be just kind of your average part of town, and all these homes were going to be very similar in structure and style, but just a little bit of variety in terms of the layouts and how they all sat in here. But I really focused on having all of these very close together, which, looking back on, I'm not sure how much I like that. I also don't know how much I like the style even. But, you know, this was like Minecraft 1.8, I think, when we started. So this was before the end update, before the, whatever you call this, the fighting update. So I'm in a 1.12 version of the game right now, but when we started, that was actually not even in the game. You could just punch things as fast as you wanted, and that was the way it worked. But if you look around here, a lot of these homes are unfinished or otherwise completely barren. So this one in particular, I think this was going to be like a 2-story home that never got fleshed out, and then coming through this side, a little storefront. There's actually not even a door. I did that a lot. That was a very Dukester thing. As you can see, I have name of person clothing department. So this was going to be a little store in which you could just sell armor, kind of trash armor it looks like, but I think I just gathered all this from mobs at the time. And name of person in parentheses is kind of funny, because the idea was that everyone in my town would have their own little names. Never got around to that fully. So this was a little bit of a cave dwelling kind of setup going here. I decided we had this giant overarching mountain. Why not use some of that? And so we wrapped around this little waterfall coming out of the side of the hill, which somehow turns into this very large waterfall as it leads down to the river. But either way, having these little holes cut out, and as you can see, some of them didn't even get much of anything at all, which is a very much recurring thing in this world. It had so much potential, and I just never truly captured that. I guess a lot of that also had to do with maybe my building skills at the time. They were dated, and I think looking back at this, I can see that, but at the time, I really thought I was onto something good. But I do believe, I just watched this video back on my channel recently, and I'm just going to say, the videos do still exist on my channel. I deleted the ones basically before the Diamond Society, so they seem to be some of the first things I ever created. That is not the case. This was kind of, again, a pivotal point in Dukester games and what could have been. But I did not create the best videos. My audio was terrible. My commentary was just not up to par. I really understand now why I didn't grow, but at the time I thought it was crazy that I couldn't accomplish anything. Oh well, either way, this was, hello creeper, this was going to be a little bit of the Thieves Guild, so again, going based on Skyrim, which was a big theme in this place, I think I just really wanted to emphasize that here. So maybe like a mess hall, a little bit of an area where people would eat. So you can see this table never even got finished. We just have 2 chairs lying here, but again, very dated building styles. I think I used a lot of spruce for some reason instead of dark oak or just normal oak. It gives this kind of a wet appearance, which it is what it is. In my mind at the time, I thought that was fantastic. And I do recall kind of having these set up to be sewers. The idea was very similar to Riften, that you would actually be able to have some sort of ratway or some sort of behind-the-scenes tunneling structure. Over here, I think this is the barracks. Yes, it is. So we have a bunch of beds laid out here on this side. Over here, again, completely unfinished. So this was another little shop. This was going to be an exotic goods. As you can see, my interior decoration at the time was a little bit behind. This part's kind of cool. It's got basically a loft up there, but it looks like the exterior of a home. So this is like an addition, basically, in a sense. Kind of interesting concepts that I was working with at the time. I just don't think I necessarily followed through as much as I could have. But hey, that's what you do. You learn and you grow and you become better. And are these shaders producing some sort of little stroke line around all these buildings? Kind of strange. Either way, this is the military district. And as you can see, it is empty aside from the wall that is, again, unfinished. Both down here, and there's no top to it. It's just very flat. But around the back side here, we have the storehouse. Now, this was, at the time, probably my second best build in the area. And a lot of people loved this build, which is kind of crazy looking back at it, because there's nothing too impressive about it. I didn't even finish out the interiors. I just kind of threw some chests in. This enchantment table is not going to do you much at all. Is there anything in my ender chest? Oh, no way! How do I have a spawn ghast head? I have an elytra. Fishnet leggings! Oh no! The immortal, ooh, an elven bow. And somehow I have Coop's head. Interesting. Don't know how that all worked out. Things are so different now. Oh, it's crazy looking back on this. So I think I wanted at some point to turn this lake into a really important lake for the people who lived here. And I eventually butted homes up against it, as you can see. But I never really administered this the way I wanted to. You can see places where I had homes laid out for the future and never really got around to it. Up here, I have this terraced off because this was going to be a bit more where the wealthy people live. I just kind of had this idea that the people who lived closer to the cathedral were a little bit more well off, which I suppose had a little bit of realism in the time frame that I was suggesting here. The cathedral itself was, in a sense, the magnum opus of my Diamond Society activities. This was what I thought was the greatest build that I have ever completed up to the point. And to some extent, yes. If you look back at kind of the block palette that you were given at this point in the game, it still holds up in terms of form and what I was able to do. Although I know a lot of people like Grian or Blonde Skunk or just some other incredible builders would produce something 10 times better than this. But I am happy with what high school age Duke was able to come up with. This was pretty good 8 years ago for me. So still proud of it in a sense. And with these shaders, oh, this is just such an epic build. It's just so good. Even though it's not as large as people build nowadays, this front facade and then kind of what we have on the side here with the pews and the red carpet. And then you lead up here. Hello. There's the priest himself. And, oh man, there's just something about this that just made me so happy at the time. The one thing I will say is not only is it unfinished, but I really feel like I let myself down with how I ended this build. So looking at this a little bit more closely, I think I kind of got lazy when I got to this portion. Now, if we cut it basically right along there, I think the front towers as well as this kind of spanning point where you have the bulk of the interior of the church, I think there's some really good aspects to this. I think this is very nice, especially for the time period it was built in. But you come around here and you see it's unfinished and it's just kind of boxy. And if you look at the floor plan of this, I had a large cylindrical mass here that I completely covered up and made a box. And I think that's where I went wrong. I think if I were to redo this build, I would kind of cut out a lot of this and either carry most of this kind of design choice further back into a single tower at the back that is just super tall, or what I do is have this end up being more of the centerpiece rather than the end and bring this way out here, push the end way back. But I don't know necessarily if that is necessary, because although it's not an overly large building, I think kind of its scale in proportion to everything else worked. You know, nowadays this thing would be like 8 times the size for people, but at its point in Minecraft, it fit. You know, it fit the timeline pretty well. So pretty happy with that. And as we move down here, this is kind of one of the initial farm areas. I was going to have a number of these very similar to this dotted around the landscape to really give the idea that this place could be sustained. And we have a bunch of different crops. We have carrots and wheat, and there's beetroot and potatoes here. But we also have some other fun stuff like netherwort, cocoa. We have sugarcane, of course, and this was a little granary space that I guess I decided to put a wooden hoe and flint in for some reason. And a bunch of leather armor. I don't know what I was doing here. Apparently we only ever harvest one netherwort. That's fine. It happens. But here's another watchtower sitting out here. I really don't like it looking back. I think it was kind of a letdown. Actually, I think doing a better understanding of this now, looking back, I really liked having 2 towers. But I kind of just went a little bit crazy with adding them because they were just so repetitious. It was easy to do. So I think it kind of detracts from this situation here. especially because this one sits up higher. And I don't think it's overly beautiful. So the people in town had to stare at this, and I kind of feel bad about that. But hey, again, you learn and you grow and you get better. It is okay. Is this actually wheat? No, it is not. It's just a collection of assortment of items. I do remember being pretty proud of this windmill. I think it actually still holds up pretty well, but the style might be a little bit different. A lot more stone brick than over there. I was using polished andesite for most things. I don't know. I don't know what my obsession with andesite was at the time, but I don't know if I fully agree with that any longer. And we used oak wood here, which is, again, something not found elsewhere. But here's the grindstone. There was some idea there. You know, I think I put a lot of thought into these, even if it didn't come off that way in my commentary as well as the execution. I think the thought was there. This was a barn, which... that actually kind of freaked me out. I was not ready for a witch to all of a sudden... Where are you? Are you under here? I am so confused. Either way, sounds like there's a witch. But I did not decide to include any stables in here at all, which probably would have been the use for this. I think I would have, if we had the granary over there, this certainly could have been filled with horses and donkeys. But carrying over this way, we have just a little winding path through the dark oak forest, which I didn't use as well as I should have. And this finally leads us out to the pier. And the pier here was what I had a really big idea for, because that goes out to the ocean. I was going to put a large ship right here, and it was going to actually make this kind of seem feasible in what realism you can pull off. Having a well-fed group of people, but also a well-defended and, you know, economically viable group of people, I think is something that I was really going for here. So we have the town down over on that side. Up on that hill, we were going to have the castle itself. And then on this hill, this is the location of where you get one of your shouts, you know, in Skyrim itself. So you'd walk right up to it and absorb the knowledge into your body, I guess. I don't know where it goes, but it goes into you. And this is actually where my good friend, the Game Space, and I finished up the last episode of the Diamond Society, in which case I followed through with the Into the Afterlife SMP, and it was just a little bit of more of a story episode than anything. As we move into town a little bit, you'll see things are a little bit different. This is Addictive G's house. This is BC's house, I believe. Don't recall whose that is. I actually had begun building a large brick mansion that I'll have to turn my render distance down for. You'll see in a second with all these skyscrapers. But back here, I believe, somewhere, there's a bunch of blocks. So right here was going to be a giant brick manor. And if you look back at the old videos, I had started it. But I think when I left Diamond Society, they just got rid of it because it was never completed. It was just like the front facade, which looked horrible. So I don't blame them at all for that. If we come into this park here, which I believe Coop did most of the work. Historic site of President Anus's hometown. Okay, now that is probably quite confusing for those involved. So President Anus was a villager from the initial village that we first built on. So we spawned in, found a village. I ended up upgrading one of the villager homes into my starter house for a while, at which point I branched out into more of a modern style that I hated. I don't even know if that video ever made the channel. I'm pretty sure the modern house never was seen on this channel. It might be seen in other people's videos from back then, but it was so ugly that I just deleted it all before I built the brick manor, or had started to. And it's probably for the best that that's gone. But President Anus was the leader of the villagers, and, well, there was a lot of lore. That's all I'll say. But I think this was Coop who built this little park and playground and stuff. It was really, really cool. This is my little temple into the mines. So watch your step, Duke. And I think just down here is like our day one mine shaft where everybody went strip mining, because that was the thing you did back before Caves and Cliffs. As you've seen from the thumbnail, this was the main part of the server. It was just remarkable what people were able to come up with. I mean, I played with some absolutely incredible builders and commentators, and it's kind of a shame that the people who stuck around didn't make it as big as Hermitcraft, because, like, look at this, and look at this. We have a wood and dirt Capitol building. This is where President Anus himself lived. I don't think he's still in here. Probably not. I think he died. I think there was a big story that he died. Oh no, there he is! He's actually here. Oh, that's remarkable. But, yeah. So there was a lot of lore and lots of great builders and just so many great things. I don't think my banner ever existed. If it did, I don't remember what it looks like. But just so well thought out. And of course, on the thumbnail you saw this absolute beast of a project. This is, I believe BC made this. Just a large old Space Needle in the middle of town. And it is so incredibly cool. I remember I took a little bit of a hiatus during my time, and I came back and this thing was just here. And I was like, what? But, you know, you're all the way up here. I guess this isn't even the observation deck. Is it this one? You're supposed to... No. I don't think you're supposed to actually come up this far. But, wow. I do remember just standing up here and being so amazed that people could pull something like this off. And, wow. Yeah, every time I come into this area, it lags my computer out to no end. Even if I turn these shaders off, we're not getting anything better. But you just have to marvel at some of these buildings. So we have Stark Tower, which I think my good friend The Game Space built, who I haven't talked to in a long time, but we had a lot of fun back in the day playing Hypixel Sky Wars and such, so those videos might still exist. I don't even know. One thing about a lot of these towers is I'm pretty sure most of them were made to be functional, so I don't necessarily know. Oh. Okay, maybe not this one. There's a horse, though. That's kind of cool. It's a skeleton horse. And over here, we have... This was the melon and pumpkin farm. I believe this was one of the first ones ever created. It doesn't seem to be working. There's 7 pumpkins in there. And those aren't even melons. Okay, there's the melons. Either way, very, very cool stuff all around. And I always like this building. I think it's pretty cool. It's like a brownstone kind of vibe. Very turn of the century rather than some of these more modern ones. Very, very, very cool stuff. So over here was a little Duke's Fish shop, which really wasn't a shop, because if you look at one of these signs, yeah, all fish are free, no donations needed. So I'm pretty sure this is around the time when AFK fishers were a thing. So you just sit there and spam right click and you'd fish out books and such and all sorts of goodies, which I took advantage of and decided to sell all my fish, or give them away, I should say. There's a floating island. Oh man, there's just so much goodness in this world. One other thing I want to point out is Coop Dizzle's home himself. So this was really cool. If you look at it from this face, we have a C and we have a D, which are the initials of his YouTube channel. Such a cool thing. And we had the New Year's Bash up here, I remember. And I think we actually also pranked him with Iron Golems one time up here, which was, again, just some absolutely incredible time. Ooh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Pokeball here. I believe these were supposed to be like murals, like there was graffiti going on, which is pretty cool. And as you can see, I don't think I ever got around to really working on a tower. I should have, but I think what happened is I left. I left the server before I could even do that, which is kind of sad. But there's a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns over here. Random flying dirt. Signs. Do not press. Will summon lots of withers for New Year's event. I have a backup. Okay. So, there's one. So does it just... Oh, yeah. Okay. I think I'm gonna kill myself here. At E. No. Okay, I might have killed myself as well. That's okay. So I'm in our great nether hub here, which is really kind of fun with the exposed bedrock ceiling. Looks like things are falling down on you. We're over a lava pit. I remember having troubles with the lava pit before this was all built. But this is pretty fun. We have the legendary half portal. I do not know what happened here or how this broke, but it is pretty crazy to see that there were glitches like that. And we have, oh, it's hard to tell. There's even no glass there. Little breakers for the minecart. I don't know where this goes. I assume the end, maybe with the end blocks. So I think looking back 8 years on, I'm just absolutely still impressed with what people were able to create on the server. And although my spawn house was destroyed and I never ended up building any of these towers here, I had a lot of fun with the guys. And looking back, I really thought that this would be the point in which my YouTube channel just exploded. But looking back, my videos just really weren't that great at the time. And although I met some absolutely wonderful people, I can see why I never grew. And I think this was really more of a learning experience for me. So I'd just like to quickly thank all the guys that I've mentioned in this video, whether that's Coop for starting it out with me, reaching out when I was still on my own server, whether it was Mopbot, who we had a lot of fun. I remember pranking him, and then he was the one I initially reached out this time around to find the server, see if we could get the map up. And of course, BC with actually helping find the map itself, the game space, Addictive G, and also, this was the first time I ever played on a server with my friend Whitefire, which was pretty fantastic, let me tell you. That's a funny story in of itself. Very quickly, though, it was just, I had a server, wanted him on there. He said no. He said I was not good enough. No, I'm kidding. He was a lot nicer than that. But he was probably onto something not joining, because it didn't last much longer. And we played on here for just a little while, and I was able to get him on with the help of Coop, who reached out to him directly, I believe, and basically just said, yeah, we got something going here, we'd love you to be a part of it. And that has blossomed into like an 8-year friendship since, so pretty cool stuff. And I will certainly never forget my time on the server. Depending on where we go from here, I don't know, but I will say I am so thankful to have been a part of all this, and I do believe that it did help me a lot in so many ways. So the one takeaway with the base itself is that even though I was young and inexperienced and maybe a little bit overambitious, I still think I had a really great foundation for what could have been. And I believe in the next coming weeks, months, whatever, until we basically come up on 10 years from when the server started, so I have a year and a half, I'm going to go through the process of absolutely finishing that out. That is something I want to do. I want to make sure that the world is, finished off, and that we kind of wrap things up on a good note here on the Diamond Society SMP. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy a little bit of a world tour, also just kind of reminiscing with me, I think I enjoyed this, and I hope you all did as well. Hopefully the video wasn't too laggy with the shaders, but I had a lot of fun. And yeah, thanks once again to everybody involved. And this has been Duke. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.